Hello. This is my new server. It is a HP 1U server. It's got a laptop DVD drive in it. It's got four 72GB 10,000 RPM hard drives. I've got these set up in RAID 5 at the minute. I've got space for another one there as well. 2 intake slots. It's quite loud, but this is what it sounds like. As you can see, it's just pretty standard really. I did buy it thinking it had 2 processors in it, but because I can't read, it only has 1. So it has one Intel Xeon E 5405 at 2 GHz. As you can see, the temperatures on it are really good. Actually makes practically no difference whether it's under load or whether it's idling. It just runs at like 50 degrees all the time. I've run Cinebench on it a couple of times and it's got up to about 53. I've got Crystal Diskmark open here. I'm just gonna run these tests 1 GB 3 times, see what the best my drives in RAID 5 can do. As you can probably hear, it's quite loud. It's not the quietest thing ever, but if you think it's loud when it's sitting idling, you should hear what the fans sound like at full speed. They're incredible. I think they're very small Delta fans. I think they're 40mm in diameter, but they're extremely thick. There we go, look at that, 240 on the read. Pretty impressive. This Xeon is actually a C0 revision, which unfortunately won't overclock very well, which isn't a problem in the actual server itself, as obviously I can't overclock it in there, but I was planning on taking it out and overclocking it if it was a decent one. I think it's an E0 is the good stepping for this chip, but oh well. That 11 megabytes, that's on 4K I think. Pretty impressive results considering these are hard drives and they've got the OS installed on them as well. Now, as for memory, it's got some pretty nice memory in it, to be fair. It's got, I think it's ECC RAM. It's at 666 megahertz, 55515. I've got 8 gigs of that in just 2 sticks, so it's 2 4GB sticks, which is pretty cool. It's not very fast, but obviously being a 4 gig module of DDR2, they're not exactly plentiful, and 8 GB is a fair bit of RAM, especially as this only has 1 CPU. I might try and get another 8 GB of RAM when I put another CPU in here. The graphics adapter is apparently an AMD, and as you can sort of tell from the resolution of my screen here, it's pretty appalling, whatever it is. It's just see here, it's finished Crystal Diskmark. Pretty impressive numbers for hard drives anyway. Obviously it's not nowhere near an SSD, but at least it's half the speed instead of a fifth of the speed of an SSD. I'll do a quick run of Cinebench for you now. I'll keep core temp open. You can see the temperatures just down there. See the edge of the thing there is actually off the screen. Won't run the OpenGL benchmarks, that will take weeks. So my plans for this server, well, I don't really have any, to be honest. It's quite noisy and I don't really have anywhere to put it, so I don't know what to do with it. But it is quite interesting and I'll probably just mess around with it and find something to do and somewhere to put it. Yeah, it's not very exciting watching this go around, so I'll probably come back with the score on 11.5, and I'll also show you the internals of it. So here are the results from Cinebench. As you can see, it scored 2.41 points and 0.62 single core, which isn't amazing. I have just looked at the processor support list though, and as you can see, it supports Xeons all the way up to the X5470, and I have an X5450 and a X5460, so yeah, I'm going to put one of those in probably right now. So I'll show you the insides of it while I'm taking the CPU out, and yeah, excellent. Right then, I'm going to show you the inside of this server. Now it's only 2 screws to open it. There's one here which is a T15 Torx bit, which is the little kind of starry one that looks like that. So there's one here and one here, and that is it. So I'm going to take this one off first. This is just a lock and an unlock thing here. You can lift that up. Undo this one screw here. And then you just lift this bit up here and it slides the panel back a bit, as you can see there. And then you literally just lift the panel off like that. Now, as you can see, there's only a single CPU installed, which is there, and there's the second socket for the other CPU, which still has its cover on. The chipset is down here underneath this heatsink. It's a little bit warm. Underneath here is the RAID controller, just there. It's an LSI RAID controller. The exact model number I'll tell you when we're coming for a closer look. This can support 2 power supplies, but it only has a single power supply in this one. You can see it's got 3 banks of these triple fans, which are exceptionally small but move a hell of a lot of air. You'd be surprised how much air these move. And then at the front we've got a slimline optical drive and 4 72GB 10,000 RPM hard drives. For DIMM slots we've got 2, 4, 6, 8 DIMM slots, capable of holding 4GB of DDR2 each, for a total of 36GB of RAM, 32GB of RAM rather, can't count. This currently has 2 4GB sticks, so a total of 8GB. The CMOS battery is located just there vertically, and I'll bring you in for a closer look at everything. Right, then we'll have a closer look at this inside of this HP server. You can see the chipset is here. The graphics chipset is this ATI chip here, which is an ES1000. You can see the banks of memory just here. They're Hynix memory, 2 4GB modules. You can see the LSI RAID controller here. and it's also got this 250 megabyte card on it. I'm not entirely sure what that does, although I'm sure someone might tell me in the comments if they know. It's got these little fans which are all the way down here with mini fan guards on the front, if it will focus on them, so you can't put your fingers in. I don't know how on earth you get your fingers in there, you'd have to be a bit of an idiot, but I suppose you can never know. And same kind of thing on the back. The CPU heatsink actually has 3 heat pipes, as you can see, and is clamped down by these 2 retention arms here, a bit like a CPU kind of retention arm. There's just 2 of these, one on each side. They lift up like this, and then you put the heatsink on and then clamp them back down again. Got my spare CPU socket here, which I've just ordered another CPU for. I've ordered another same one of these, which is a 5405, an E5405, but I'm probably going to end up putting X 5450s or 5460s in here. You can see there the LGA 771 socket. I've still got the cover for that, which is good. The retention arm isn't actually very springy and doesn't have a lot of high force, as the actual heatsink itself pushes down on the CPU a lot. What else have we got in here? We've got a internal USB port located just here, which I didn't notice before. There's another chip under here. I'm not entirely sure what that is. I presume one of these is the North Bridge and the South Bridge, but it is strange because that one seems to have a smaller heatsink, so I would have thought this would be the North Bridge, but this is much hotter than this after it's been on for a while, so I'm not sure about that. I suppose I've only got one CPU in. There are actually some dip switches down here. I'll have to look up what they do, but it could be quite interesting to play with them. It's got a single power supply. I'm not sure what that's rated at. I could probably take it out and have a look, but it's on my chair at the minute, so it's going to slide around. It's got dual gigabit Ethernet ports, PS2 ports, VGA ports, and another gigabit Ethernet port and 2 USB 2 ports on the back. I think that is about it, to be honest. It's got a little sticker here which is quite funny, saying Intel Xeon inside. And it's got a sticker on the front. The front of it doesn't look very nice. It's sort of a grey brown colour, so, but I'm not too fussed about that. So yeah, that's the inside of this server. So if you'd like to like the video, then you can like the video. I'll make more videos of this in future. We'll see how dual Xeons compare to a extremely overclocked Core 2 quad on phase cooling, because I think that'll be an interesting video, because I have managed to get a Core 2 Quad Extreme over 5 GHz, so in theory that should be equivalent to about 2.5 gigs of gigahertz CPUs, but then you've got to factor in that the RAM on the phase cooling machine is running at nearly 1200 megahertz, which is over, well, nearly double the speed that this is. So that should be interesting. So yeah, I think that's about it. See you in the next video.